Thank you. I'm honored to stand and give this small or short brief. Thank you for RUSI and the CGS for providing this ground for knowledge sharing and for the camaraderie of armies around the Western world, or all world, almost. And lastly, I want to thank my friends at the stage from keeping me from being the only shining head on the stage. So, thank you. So, a lot has been said about what has changed in the nature of war. And it is true, a lot has changed. Maybe the most changing factor is technology, but also all other factors have changed dramatically. One smart man once said that the future is constant, but it's hard to predict, and the past is changing all the time. But we are in a changing environment, and everything is changing, and I will elaborate on that a little later. But I want to emphasize the left side of the slide of the things that haven't changed. And I think there are a lot of things that haven't changed. From all the experiences, the combat experiences and the operations that I have been through, not in even one of them, I didn't suffer a surprise. So always there was an element of surprise that I suffered. And the question is, how are you able to overcome the surprise and be triumph? And this is something that is the chaotic nature of war. If you look at it, we are now in an environment, a lot of computers, a lot of technology. Maybe we can put it all into order, into tables and into softwares and so on. But there is always the element of surprise. Some speakers yesterday said about 10%, maybe it's 10, maybe it's more, I don't know. But it's always uncertain. And in order to be triumph, you have to be able to recover from suffering surprise. The second thing, a lot has been talked yesterday about the emerging fires and precision fires and how it affects the battlefield. I think we can learn from the Second World War, when London were suffering the curfew and heavy bombing, and Berlin was ruined to the grounds, and that didn't end the war. What ended the war were boots on the ground walking into Berlin. And I think this concept is unchangeable. Maybe unfortunately, but this is the true fact, that maneuver and attack are in the basis of our strategy, of the Army's strategy. And trying to rely on Air Force or something else is usually not paying dividends in terms of completing the mission. And the second thing, one thing I wanted to reflect on the previous discussion was about the proficiency or the capabilities of the soldiers. We in Israel, we recruit all soldiers, all population into the army. So we don't deal with the question, are they able to manage the complications or whatever. And when I led a brigade in battle, I think less than 0.1% were unable to deal with the consequences of war. So basically what I'm saying is, yes, it is battle fatalities, and the uncertainty is a very hard thing to deal with when you're young, when you're unexperienced, but most of the population are doing it quite well. So I'm not going to go all through this whole themes, but a lot of things have changed. And the one thing that I think is constant is the change. The change all the time, things change. And what happens in this time of history, I think, is that it changed more rapidly than other times. And the other thing I wanted to say is that on the right bottom side, we all the time deploy our forces every 4 months on routine security missions. So all the time you have to put under consideration the training, how do you prepare them for war on one hand, and on the other hand, how do you maintain their missions as a border defense and routine security. So the first thing I want to stress is the spherical threat. So before we went into last operation in Gaza, Protective Edge, there was always this line that you can describe between the forces, between the enemy and the blue force. There was a steady line where you can tackle it. But then, when the underground warfare is very vast, is all over the area, then there is no line of separation. And the threat is spherical. It's coming from underneath, from above, from behind, from electromagnetic waves, and everything is changed in that sense. And it's very difficult to teach the troops how to deal with all these directions of threat. So what do we do? First of all, we build multiple advanced training facilities. So we can put in operational challenges with big formations of battalions and brigades in these complexes, and they can suffer attacks from underneath, from above, and wherever. And that helps us to train the forces. The second thing is, a lot has been said about imagination. Maybe not in this session, but battlefield is a lot about imagination, trying to understand the battlefield without seeing all of it. And when you bring a soldier in a battle, you want him to imagine how it's going to look like. So we try to put the enemy in the best, or to simulate the enemy as best as we can. And so we dress them, they speak, they dress, they act like the enemies that we think that we're going to counter. And the last thing is advanced simulators. So these are pictures from simulators that we have in our NTC. And basically, you can put people in a room that will look like an apartment or a building in the urban terrain building, and they will fight or simulate the fight within the picture that they can see in front of them. And this is a very helpful way of merging these all factors into simulating the spherical threat. The second thing is about the readiness of the combat teams, battalion level, company level, and brigade level. So one thing that we do is organization. All the time before going into training, we mesh them together. I think like you've done with the 16th Brigade, putting all the different specializations in the same unit. So we do that every time we go to train. We put the engineers, we put the armored, we put the infantry, we put all intelligence, everything in the brigade level, down to the battalions, and then we train that way. So this is one thing. The second thing is we conduct full-scale operation. One thing is the training. So one thing I want to emphasize on that is the operation itself as a whole is a very difficult art to manage. And the only way a brigade commander or a battalion commander can understand the complexity is by doing it. And this is why we do that, and we have, I've heard yesterday about very limited exercises at division level. Every year we conduct around 3 division level exercises in Israel. And the last but not least is the headquarters training on all levels. A lot of training. One of the things that you can see here is what we've done. We've tried to minimize the number of participants in the headquarters. This is the picture on the top. And the one beneath it is a simulator. So what we've done is all commanders of all levels, from platoon level to brigade level, can be part of a simulated exercise, headquarters exercise, with computers. I don't know how many of you play or know about Fortnite. Who knows what's Fortnite? Well, this is the most ignorant group of video games of video games that you can have. Fortnite is a video game. My son plays it all the time. Our 14-year-old son plays it all the time. And he plays it with people from all over the world, from United States, from Britain, and his friends. When they gather together, they split everyone to his home so they can sit on the Xbox and play Fortnite. And it's a very good simulation game. And we use some of these capabilities, these new capabilities, so you can go with your command system or your C4I system. You can get all the information. You can see where you are and where your peers are, and you have the vision or the picture of what you will see on the terrain. So it's simulator and headquarters training combined together. The technological aspect is we took the soldier, all the units, and we put a lot of technology on them. Missiles, machine guns, communications, and so on and so on. And if you would see pictures of fighters in the Second World War, they had a gun, some magazine, and a small backpack. Now we see our soldiers, they have, I think, something like 80 pounds on their backs. So what do we do so we can help them with all these professions? So first of all, technology, we try to mix things together. So on the bottom you see there our new C4I system, and it's minimized. It's very small, very helpful to use. The second thing is more professions within the combat forces, and a lot of professionalized training. The third thing is joint arms. Instead of training everyone to do everything, we use different capabilities from the different forces. In Israel, we don't have the system, or some of the systems that you have. We don't have planes or helicopters in the army. They are being managed by the Air Force, and we just do multi-arm joint combat. So all these things makes it easier on you to split the professions and to adjust the preparation for fight. Last is the human factor. Resilience is some of the most important things that you can have on battle, and this cannot be solved by AI. No, you have to train for that. You have to put your soldiers in prolonged training, in endurance training, so they can suffer and they can know how to overcome these challenges. You have to put them in cognitive challenges so they can try to solve problems that they haven't encountered before that. And again, a lot of simulated training, and try to teach them about uncertainty. So in conclusion, change, expertise is needed, and high personal capabilities. However, technology cannot replace the battle and combat capabilities and basic command of combat soldiers and commanders. We have to adjust the organization structure for the operation challenges, and all the time we have to manage the time of training between the different methodological things, between the lower levels and the big combat teams, physical training and professionalized training, field training and simulated training, live fire and two-sided training. These are all tensions that you have to manage when you use the time of training. Thank you.